Okay, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Consistency Podcast. I'm your host Andre Robinson. I'm joined by Frank FLW to some, and we have an interesting show for you today. I'm gonna let Frank kind of steer us in the direction today, and we're just gonna have a casual conversations. No guests this time, and no video. So we're kind of back to an older format, but that's what got us here. So we just gonna stick with it. How you doing this week, Frank?
Pretty good, pretty good. So there's a lot going on. Of course, for those people who are sports fans, you know that we're in the midst of the NBA playoffs. And one of the things that a lot of people who've been watching the playoffs have been talking about is the fact that we've been all over the place trying to watch the playoffs. From Prime to Peacock, from Peacock to ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people, I guess, well, ultimately, most people know that it's there's a financial incentive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the question is, where exactly does that financial incentive land? And the sport that really kind of kicked this off and 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 saw a whole lot of success as far as using and taking advantage of the international market would probably be baseball,
Mm-hmm.
because there's some baseball teams that have been struggling for a minute, but because of that international money that they were able to tap into because of the foreign market, you noticed that Shohei Otani is probably the biggest name in baseball right now, and he's from Asia.
That's where you lose
And
me. I don't
so,
know anything about baseball right now.
yeah. But you've seen Shohei Otani
Probably.
because he's in those commercials. I think it might be Reebok,
Hold
but
on. Is he the pitcher for the Dodgers?
the Dodgers,
Okay,
right?
okay. I know a little something. I ain't.
I told
Okay.
you you knew who he was.
I remember because when they were in the World Series, I remember them. I didn't remember his name specifically, but I was assuming that's who you were referring to. So, okay. I know
Yeah,
a little
he
something about
pitches.
baseball.
He pitches and hits home runs, by the way. So
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
you've
yeah.
heard of
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah. So and and of course, from a monetary standpoint, there's a lot of interest in continuing to. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it. But Shohei Ohtani is actually the face of Major League Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and the reigning MVPs in the NBA have all come from someplace else.
Right.
The guy who we call the Joker, he's from he's from Europe, and then SGA, Shea Gillis Alexander, he's from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so the
Going
bottom line
against
is
Wemby.
that, yeah, the bottom line is when people stream these games on these platforms, whether they be ESPN or Peacock, is much better able to reach those international audiences than the traditional stations,
Mm-hmm.
NBC, ABC, and not to mention, and I learned this recently listening to sports radio, they were saying that the reason why Prime and even Netflix is in the mix with all this stuff now. The reason why they are able to be such big players in this space is because they flush with cash. Because people do a lot more streaming today than watching traditional TV.
Mm-hmm.
So NBC, ABC, CBS, they're really struggling to keep up with those guys. And that's part of the reason why, even when you look at the NFL, you see them moving more towards those platforms.
Right.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think the Thursday night football game was coming on Prime.
Yep.
One of those Monday
Yep.
or Thursday, one of those
They
nights.
had some
I think it was,
Netflix games too, as well. I remember.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I just wanted to provide that context for people who were wondering why the games are all over the place. And basically, it benefits the sport to spread the joy because, it's, hey, whoever can afford to get their piece, come on, come on to the table,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so that's basically, and we're going to continue to see that. Now, the thing that annoys me a little bit about the approach that they're taking now, I remember when I was a child, I had the benefit of being able to watch all of the playoffs and now I don't know what's going to happen when it comes time with the finals, but I know that I can watch it on I guess your regular broadcast TV.
Mm-hmm.
And my concern is, even though some would argue that almost everybody has these different streaming platforms in America, not necessarily so. There are those households that don't have cable, and so
I'm
what do
one.
they do? What do they do? So maybe you could speak to that because I heard you say earlier that you're not all over the place watching the playoffs. So maybe you could help people.
Yeah, I haven't had cable in, I don't know when the last time I had cable. Maybe 2019. I haven't had cable in like 6, 7 years now. But well, you said a lot of interesting things that I have never really thought about. First off, saying that streaming is kind of helping take sports more global, and I can see that for sure, especially outside of just like local networks. And I think if I don't know if that was the initial reason for the push. I think that's probably definitely part of it, but I would think that it was more to allow people outside of a particular market to now see these games that wouldn't typically be
Oh
available
yeah.
to people. But yeah, when it comes to the current streaming, or like where everything is separated, that's kind of just a symptom of having so many different streaming platforms now. So every platform is trying to make sure that they have one leg up on the other one. So it's like if you like watching this team, then you need Peacock. If you like watching that team, then you need Amazon Prime. And all of that is kind of leading back to, I don't know if you've ever been into like torrenting any type of media online, like downloading people used to torrent music and software, things like that.
I've heard of it, but maybe you can talk a little bit about it for to enlighten us.
Yeah, so I guess back when, like, and this is kind of more tied to music streaming. Back in the day when albums would drop, then you could go to like websites like Limewire. I know that's a blast from the past for a lot of people. If you've heard of Limewire, um, they had like Napster. So Limewire was basically what torrents were, though. So you would go there, you can just basically find different software. So you could find like DJ software, stuff like Logic Pro, FL Studios, which is music production softwares and stuff. You could torrent anything, movies, music. So a lot of people would, and that was when like Napster had came out, and so then they had started cracking down on people illegally downloading music. So with streaming coming into play now, it's almost like that was their solution to combat people freely downloading the music. So now you pay a subscription and then you get access to all of this music. But what in turn ended up happening is that you no longer own these media files now. So if you're no longer paying the subscription, then you lose all of your access to this music that you've collected over the years.
Wow.
So but that's the same thing with Netflix. Now Netflix, people used to own DVDs or have to download, or purchase a download from their respective whatever channel had it or whatever. But now you don't own those DVDs, and once you stop paying your subscription, then you lose access to it.
Wow, that's a good point. I never really thought of that until you said it. Yep.
So everything now, we're renting everything. We don't own anything else. And I think with basketball, it used to be something that was free. That, well, I can't say it was free, but you could find it on some free channels, right? You could, it'd be on. I don't even remember what what channels used to be free, like outside of cable. So, but you could probably catch your local games.
Yeah, NBC, ABC, CBS used to come on all of that, and it still comes on ABC and NBC because ESPN has a relationship with ABC,
Okay.
and Peacock has a relationship with NBC. So, for example,
Okay,
I
that makes
think
sense.
tonight's game might be on NBC, which is
Okay.
connected to Peacock.
So that also then explains how those local networks now kind of broke into the streaming games with these platforms. So if NBC is associated with Peacock, then that's how they're probably licensing all of their syndicated shows to Peacock to watch, so their users can see that. And same thing with ESPN. So that's the game that a lot of these companies are playing, which is now leading people back to going towards illegal means to consume some of these products and stuff. So I will say the app that I use, I won't put it in the description, so just because I mean they ain't gonna flag us or anything, but I go to an app called the TV app.to, and so that's, you can watch all of the NBA games on there. So it's from alternate channels though, so sometimes you may be missing the commentators, so you might just be watching like the in stadium video of it, but it's pretty good quality. And you can watch regular TV on there too, so I won't say it again. You'll have to rewind it if you want to catch it. We're not. Well, this is just for. We're not telling you to go watch that. So we're not advising you to do anything illegal here. But those are some options now that people are exploring. Now that it is so difficult to find these games in one centralized place. I believe they used to. I don't even know if you can get everything on. Like the NBA app, I'm not sure. Like I'm sure they might have certain things where it's like, okay, we don't have this one. I remember with like NFL Network back in the day, you would get that, but then sometimes you wouldn't have access to certain games. So I don't really know how all of that goes. But just as things get more fragmented and it get harder to find things, then people are going to start to find these free alternatives that will, actually provide a better experience for everything. Because now you can switch between multiple games, not at one time on this app, but it'll have, if there's 3 playoff games that night, it'll have all of them playing at certain times. So you could click into this one, see what's going on there, click into that one, and then a lot of times, if the way the games, especially in the playoffs, are structured, once one goes off, the next one starts. So it's like you'll be watching the other one till the end, and then once that one ends, it'll flip you right to the next game. So that's just one thing when it comes to people adapting to things online. So I see that coming back. I see like torrenting music coming back because of the fact that we don't own the music anymore, so people still would want to like have access to those files. And the difference between having access to the files is, if you have an MP3 file, you can play that on any MP3 player. So you can move that, you can take that MP3 file from your computer, pass it to your phone, and if you have an MP3 player app on your phone, then you can play that that file on your phone, and then you can transfer it other places. So that's the importance of having the actual file. You can't do that with Apple Music. So on Apple Music, you can't take your favorite song on Apple Music and then send it to like an Android phone, or you can with Apple, you can kind of share your streaming services amongst your devices, but in terms of having the actual file, you can't do that. So that's yeah, I think things are gonna be moving closer to people trying to find ways around the standard streaming services, just because we don't own it anyway. So now you're saying that now I don't have to pay and I can own the actual file, so that's gonna kind of shift people towards more different means, I'll say.
Yeah, because back in the day, one of the things that people would hang their hat on was to, for lack of a better term, brag about, for example, their music collection.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started to say book, but even that, now people don't, a lot of people don't buy physical books because they can download
Yeah.
the book from some Audible or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really took the time to consciously think about it, what's happening to us, because a lot of the content that is important to me as a coach and an instructor, a lot of that is on platforms that if I don't go to that platform to access it, I can't access it because it's not in a format that can be transferred anywhere else. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of control. That's a whole lot of control.
Yeah, that was
Now,
actually one of the initial when I first started WeTheSauce. I was downloading all of the music directly, so it was really an actual library collection of the MP3s. I wasn't letting people download it, but it was an actual. That was why it took so long for things, because I'm like, okay, I gotta download the music, change the titles and everything, upload it. So, but also when you're dealing with so many files, like since there's so much music out now, if you had physical file or physical CDs, or if you were trying to hold all of those files, you really wouldn't you'd be very limited in the amount of music that you could have. So that's one of the problems that streaming has solved. So now you're not limited to only listen to um or that actually brings to another point, but people will now give more things a chance because they don't have to have ownership of it, or and there's no it doesn't you can listen to one album and then you can listen to a completely different album and not for the same price. Before, you would buy your favorite album and then you've already spent your money, so now you don't even get a chance to hear the other albums that drop. So now it does give you more opportunities to you know find new things that you like, I'd say.
yeah, and I guess it might lend itself to more opportunity for upcoming talent, possibly because of that. Possibly.
It's it definitely gives. So the thing with upcoming talent is that they're on the same platforms as these big artists. So it's like, although we're not limited to the amount of files we can download, now we still have time restrictions on our lives. So it's like, if Drake drops an album and rapper X drops an album, you're gonna listen to Drake. But even if you're not a fan of Drake, you're going to listen to, find out what other people think about it, whether you want to just hate on it or whatever. Like, that's streaming has allowed more hate listening to kind of come to fruition. But yeah, just because you can listen to new artists, now it's hard for people to know if it's worth their time. So it's like, if somebody has never heard of you, or then the chances of them clicking onto your stream now is lower, I'd say.
Speaking of Drake, because today's show is sort of current events, I don't know. sometimes I'm late to the party, but I think I heard Drake may have dropped something fairly recently.
Dropped 3 albums on us.
Three?
3 albums, yep. And so he dropped Iceman was the initial album that was
That's
being
what.
promoted. And
That's the one that I heard about. Okay.
yeah, so Iceman, and he actually created really a whole visual album. So he had streamed that the day before it had dropped. So like on YouTube, he had dropped. He's been dropping Iceman episodes for really over a year. So it's been a very long, thorough rollout. This month, or so he streamed in the. It was kind of like a movie, but at the same time, music videos for each song on Iceman. I haven't gone back to the stream itself, so I think he might have had a couple of other songs from the other projects as well, but I was listening to that stream as just Iceman straight through. So I could be wrong on that though, because I've only seen it once. But then at 12 last week, so on the 15th, then he had dropped 2 additional projects. So at the end of the Iceman stream, he had revealed that it was going to be a 3-part project or 3 separate albums. So one is called Habiti, the other one Iceman, and then he has Maid of Honor. So 3 projects. And what he did with this project, I think, was separated them kind of by genres. So the Habiti, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Everyone's been saying it differently, so well, I'm just gonna assume that I'm saying that correctly. But that one is kind of more, I would say, R&B Drake, kind of like, where he's into melodies and discussing. Let me see. Yeah, I guess it's definitely more R&B and vibey music. Iceman is where he got to all of the disses and stuff, and so addressing everything that had been going on with the Kendrick beef and everyone else who came out during the during that whole beef a couple of years ago, 2 years ago.
I've got. Let me ask you a quick question. So I only heard one track from the Iceman project, and I'm glad that you shared with us that each one of them is kind of different in terms of the direction he's trying to go. Because I think that one of his albums had more of a house music.
Yeah,
kind of.
that was the third one. That
Okay,
was
kind
the
of.
Maid of Honor.
Okay, all right. So with Iceman, is he kind of more focused on just straight rapping, or is he doing the sing song rapping on that one too, or did he save that for Habiti?
Yeah, though Iceman is pretty bar heavy. Like if you like rap bars, he's given a lot of Now there's still good songs. Like there's songs that can be played in the club. I wouldn't say there's no R&B on Iceman though. I wouldn't say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he's got some really good samples on there. Some very some very concise disses. He did a real good job at dissing people, I would say. But
So I'm sure you're probably going to do a whole show on that,
yeah,
on his.
we could definitely do that because it's a lot of content that he dropped. The project itself has a lot to digest too. So it's between all 3 projects. I want to say it was 43 songs. So
Wow.
yeah, so he dropped a lot of music. It's getting a lot of good reviews, a lot of good reception. I think this is probably my favorite project by him since, I'd say, since Views, and I think I might like it better than Views.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's not even like I didn't like any of the other Drake albums that have dropped, but this one is just kind of on another level in terms of focus, I would say. And I think him separating the albums into different kind of genres helped the flow of it, because a lot of times a lot of critiques would be like, oh, some people just want rap and Drake, some people just want R&B Drake, and so now he's like, well, now if you want this Drake, go here, if you want this one, go here. So I think that was an interesting way for him to kind of do that. At first it was, and also they were saying, this is a theory, I don't know if it's true, but they were saying that he needed 3 more solo albums to get out of his deal with UMG. So they're saying that's the word around town. And then they're also saying that he possibly has deals with a private equity firm for his music. So, and that would really shake things up, because now you would no longer need a record label to fund music. So that could change hip hop in general, which I don't know if that would be the best idea. I couldn't say if that's good or bad just yet. I could see some potential issues coming from that in the future, but as for right now, there $2 billion claims on his future catalog, so we'll see how that comes. But does seem like he's in a much better position. I remember one of my concerns was when the Kendrick beef was, where they were trying to take out his initial credibility towards the end of his current contract that he was in. Now, I do think he still missed out on a lot of money by re-signing to UMG the first time. So now that he is closer to the end of his contract now, and maybe he's fulfilled it, we can see how things look moving forward. It sounds like, the thing is, it sounds like his music is mature. I would say I always think artists like Drake and Kanye are always getting better as they continue to release music. I don't necessarily see a peak, because they collaborate with a lot of people and they're trying to bring new ideas. So I don't necessarily believe that he hit his peak in terms of music creation, but I do think he may be past his original peak of relevancy, which might not even be the worst thing, because I think he's still the most relevant in rap music, but I also believe rap music as a whole has now lost a lot of points in popularity. So that's the only place where I think he kind of missed out, and that's only because of the previous deal that he signed a couple of years ago for all that money. But he got paid. If he's out of the deal now, then he can move forward and make new deals and possibly do some other great things.
So let me ask you this: do you feel, because I heard you say a couple of times, that you think that perhaps this might be his best, at least recent entree? Do you think that this whole beef with Kendrick may have jerked the slack out of him a little bit? Do you think that, because I did listen, I'll be honest, that through my sons, I did listen to the entirety of the project where he had the house music.
Honestly, never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that album.
And yeah. Now, again, I'm a old head when it comes to rap. Rakim, BDK, and so that's what I'm used to as far as bars.
Right.
And I don't know, but that particular album, I know that he was going after a particular audience, and I appreciate all of that. But I think that perhaps it may have presented an opening, one that Kendrick, thinking of it in terms of boxing, I think it may have presented an opening that Kendrick decided to explore. And Also, I have to imagine that he felt some kind of way about Kendrick being the one chosen to headline the Super Bowl because let's face it, Drake was in the game. I mean, as far as I know, I could be wrong. Drake was in the game before Kendrick. And so Kendrick walks up and he gets the Super Bowl. And Drake had already been, for all intents and purposes, killing the game
Mm-hmm.
before Kendrick came around and, had a smash year with the whole diss thing. So I, from my vantage point, and I don't know as much of the in and outs as you do as the proprietor of We the Sauce, but sometimes pressure is just what a person needs to uh, get get where they belong. I will say that when Drake was earlier in his career and he was uh, more um, verse heavy, as you would say, bar heavy, as you would say,
Mm-hmm.
before he started singing, he was more my vibe. So I'm interested in hearing all of Iceman now.
Okay, yeah. Iceman is definitely back to bar. It's I think as Drake was progressing in his career, I think he was reaching that point of um just being the best, like good at so many places where it's hard to kind of improve without experimenting. He had kind of given us everything that we had needed, in terms of like sentimental bars. Like we know a lot about Drake because of his music. Um, that was one thing I would always say. The difference between like Drake and J. Cole is you act like you could listen to J. Cole for a long time, but you don't really know too much about his personal life. So Drake is very vulnerable in that aspect, and him continuing to really, I would say, sell your soul, not in like a bad way, but like actually sell who he is as a person, on his music, or pour into his music with all of his being, is kind of what he's been known for. Um, I think with the past, I think he was getting so good at music, and he was so good at being versatile, that once he stopped like operating in somebody's like favorite version of him, then they would kind of fall to being like, oh, he's falling off. But it's really just more he's shifting his focus in a lot of those situations, to where it's like, okay, now he's making club bangers, now he's making R&B songs. So that's where I think a lot of the criticism for him came off, as him being unfocused, or not wanting, or even people were saying that he's trying too hard to appeal to the younger crowd, when I think he was just good at, he was actually able to vibe and make good music that the younger people could appreciate and enjoy. um in terms of, I think this gave him definitely something, like the beef itself gave him something to really like focus all of his energy on, and kind of give it like a, like a super villain to kind of attack, and gave him a punching bag of sorts, and gave him a reason to, you know kind of talk a little, do a little trash talking, hype himself up, and it not feel like it's just from a place of him just being the best rapper. Like, it actually felt like he had some, I wouldn't say something to lose, but he had something to prove again. And I think that was really the big thing that he's been missing, because it's like when you're number one for so long, it's like, okay, what else do you have to prove? So I think that's kind of what that the beef kind of gave him. It gave him some room to kind of improve and address some things. So, and I think I'm happy he took time off to do this. Like, he didn't just try and come back right away. I think he could have delivered the same project and it wouldn't have been received the same. Or he could, I mean, drop the same 3 projects and it wouldn't have been received the same had he done it like back when all the beef was going on and Not Like Us was dropping. So I could say that I wouldn't completely credit it to. No, I would credit it to the beef though. Overall, like not just this Kendrick specifically, but everyone who then kind of revealed how they felt about Drake directly. Yeah, I think that's more what pushed it to the point right now.
So he came for all those people in Iceman.
Very like, and the thing about Drake is he does it in very like clever ways. So it's like even a lot of ways that like we might not know, the person who he's rapping to or saying knows exactly what he's saying. Like they were because you know people are dissecting the album and you know breaking it down in many ways. So they're saying the way that he starts a lot of the beats is the same way that Pharrell starts his beats. So Pharrell doesn't have a producer tag, which would be like for people like Young Metro has. If Young Metro don't trust you, I'ma shoot you. That's Metro Boomin's producer tag. So a lot of producers have like what they call a tag to let you know that they made the song. And so kind of like a signature. And so one of Pharrell's signatures is he'll like kind of restart the song like 4 times real quick at the beginning. So it'll be like dun 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 dun, and the movie the song will start. So Drake did that on a couple of the songs on Iceman, and so it's kind of a little shot at Pharrell. But that's one of the subliminals, so it's not necessarily a direct diss. He did directly diss Pharrell a couple of times on there. He had a lot of disses for Kendrick. Rick Ross caught a few. DJ Khaled caught a few. ASAP Rocky. So he had a lot of people who he was addressing, and even more like I think Iceman is filled with even the bars that we don't know. He's dissing somebody probably on all of them bars. But I mean that goes to show how good. And I think the main thing he was trying to do was just he wants it to be songs that are played outside and in clubs and stuff. So people are just all around the world are now dissing these people when they're just singing the song. But that's one of the things with with music. So
this is something I've been wanting to bring up to you for a while. And of course, as I've admitted in the past, I'm not as versed on a lot of the new hip hop as I am hip hop from 15, 20 years ago. But I will say that there's a particular song, and I wanted to ask you about it. I shared this with my son because Lil Baby is actually one of my son's favorite artists. Not Joshua, but Asa,
okay.
you haven't met yet. And of course, you made you made reference to that phrase "something to prove," which "something to prove" might be Lil Baby's biggest record. My question to you is in my opinion that 25 years from now, I think that particular song will be I believe it'll be in the top 100 rap songs 25 years from now. Do you think that it has that ability to last? Of course, I don't think a lot of the newer stuff has that ability to last, but I think that particular song, 25 years from now, I believe, I'm going to put it way out there, I think it'll be top 100 25 years from now. I think it's that strong.
So when you say top 100, do you mean like top 100 all time or top 100
period,
like...
Period, all time, period, all time.
I'm trying to think because, I mean, I think that's a good song, but I don't think that's his most popular song. So, like, when I think of Lil Baby, a song that I think would be Freestyle, just because that song is, I think Something to Prove is a better song. Don't get me wrong, but I think in terms of popularity, freestyle is one that kind of just hits a
No,
little
not
bit more?
necessarily. So, not necessarily popularity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking in terms of um, con- in terms of better. So, if you made a list of the songs that weren't just popular but strong songs,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of stuff that when I think of strong songs that last. Obviously, one of the people that comes to mind immediately is Rakim. I think he has stuff that will last forever because he just has just done that. I think he's one of those artists that um, I think that particular song when I've listened to it from top to bottom, and I think I don't know what space he was in other than what he says
Mm-hmm.
he was he felt he was in when he put that record together. I think it was when we talk about hip hop, I think that it really is hip hop, and I think it would be relevant 25 years from now.
25 years from now. That's a I mean
That's a
that's
strong
a that's a
statement,
bold
right?
it's a bold statement. Um and the only reason I'm saying it's bold is just because there's so much music that
I
releases.
know, I
So,
know, I know,
but yeah,
I know.
if you, I could see, it's definitely one of definitely probably his best song I would say, but for all time, that's but it's also because you have to break it. It's like when you're thinking of it, because if you're talking about Rakim, then that means that you're doing all like around the whole country
I know,
as well.
I know,
So
I
it's
know.
like, oh, hey, that's a hot take right there. I like it, but I don't know if I could say. That's tough. Top 100 impact,
Not
like
100,
impact from
25 years from
impactful.
now. 25 years from now. And
Okay.
I say 25 years from now because I'm sure that right now there are people who respect the song, but they're willing to pile all kinds of other people ahead of him. But hopefully he'll stay in the game. And when we look at what that particular song will mean for hip hop at this time, he will separate himself from a lot of his peers, and that's also what I'm thinking about. You know. Now, I want to ask you another question because um, one day I was riding along, and you would be able to talk to this even more so as a technology person. Of course, we know AI is good, and some people are using AI to do some abominable things. For an example, and I'm pretty sure that it's already got um, over 1 million listens
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. They've got this somebody, and I didn't know it was AI at first, although it didn't sound like
A
Lil
robot.
Baby,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody put out what was supposed to be something to prove two,
Mm.
featuring Rick Ross, and they've got this image of Lil Baby rapping, but the stuff that he was saying didn't really sound like him. I'm like, and so I had my son to listen to it. He said, "Oh, that's AI."
I
But
agree.
that's scary, man. I
Yeah.
mean, people are doing that with real artist music. That's horrible.
hmm Nah, I recently, one of my friends had told me, it was like she was telling me Future dropped an album under a different name on Apple Music. So I find it on Apple Music. It's right there. Then I'm listening to it. I'm like, okay, it's a new Future song. But then as I'm listening, because I'm like, oh, because they had like 5 projects. So I'm like, dang, why is Future dropping all of these songs So then I
Right.
started listening, and then all of a sudden, then I hear a Travis Scott feature. Then I'm like, okay, the songs are good. So it sounds like Future for the most part. And I'm just assuming that I'm listening as if it's like him dropping on like a burner account. And so I'm like, okay, maybe the songs aren't mixed all the way. So I'm assuming that they're not like high quality songs. So then I heard a Travis Scott song, and I'm like, okay, I don't know why this wouldn't, why he wouldn't want to put this out for his own project or something, or
Right.
why he would be testing it here. Then I heard a Lil Baby feature, and I was like, dang, this is one of the better Lil Baby verses I've heard in a very long time. So I'm like, I don't know why I would put it here. Then I heard a Weekend song feature on. I was like, okay, now hold on, now there's something. and so, and this song, and so I was like, they came out like a week before I listened to it. And then, but then when I was looking at the other ones, I'm like, okay, I listened to some of the older projects that they had, and then that's when I was like, okay, so a couple of years ago, it didn't sound as clean. So like music that they dropped maybe 2024 or 2025, I was listening to, and it sounds like the AI has just gotten that much better to where it's harder and harder to tell to distinguish between them and the real artist. So it
That's
got me
horrible.
too. Yeah. But yeah, you gotta it's really hard to distinguish between the AI because it's really gotten advanced to the point where you almost would want to, because there it's from probably a fan, so someone who's a fan of them and wants to hear a certain type, like, oh, I wish Future would sing a song like this, and so now they have the ability to create it using like Suno and other AI tools. So that's, and I don't, I actually don't know if that person was able to get, like, it was a legitimate Apple Music profile, so they might even be able to get paid off of that, which is, that's crazy.
I heard
So
they do get paid off of it. And
yeah,
so what I'm curious about is what is the industry? How's the industry dealing with this? It's horrible.
yeah, it's gonna get a little shaky. Because it's gonna get shaky once they start doing it to the right artists who have the ability to start fighting back, because a record label wouldn't step in to stop it if they're eating off of the AI as well. So AI, it's it's very nuanced, honestly. So I couldn't really say where I I sit on it, on the issue with, because I see I see so many, like, especially in like gospel music, I see a lot of people, creating the type of gospel music that they would want to hear, or modern music in gospel. Now I remember we talked about how some gospel music just doesn't necessarily fit the right sound today, but now they're able to kind of do that, and I'm like, okay, so some of this is coming and it's sounding with secular, I guess, I mean, there's not even secular instruments, but just like, it's now the beats are more
Secular
modern.
sound, yeah.
So it's like, that could change something there. That could be a good thing. Some people might look at that as a bad thing. Like I said, it's very nuanced conversation. But there's really no limits to what we're going to hear moving forward, how artists are going to incorporate that. Because if I don't know if you had heard the original Kanye album, Bully, it used AI. I'm not exactly sure how much AI was a part of it, or like if it was his voice or if he was just using it in certain points. But
Wow.
then the one that he re-released was supposedly AI free. I don't exactly know how true that is either. But so yeah, we just don't we don't know what's real anymore. Yeah, we're really at that point.
And when you said that, you make me so I guess the only time we might know if it's real is if we were seeing them in concert. But even then, not necessarily because of lip syncing and all that.
Yeah, I mean, if they just have the I mean, I think I don't believe the issue with current artists or AI artists is that if it's a full AI artist, then they can't necessarily tour. But like if an artist like if an artist like Drake or Kanye or somebody was using AI for their own voice, then it's hard to distinguish what's the difference. But that also because then we're getting back to is AI simply just a tool that helps people sound better? Because that's the same thing you do with auto tune. If you singing into auto tune, that's computer generated. So that's where things start to get muddy. Or are you using the AI to help you write the song or write the hook? Because then that gets back into the ghostwriting things. So we really don't know, but like artists could definitely create a whole AI song using their own voice. I know Benny Siegel. I think he might have had like something happen with his throat to where he can't talk maybe the way he used to, or I'm not exactly sure what was specifically wrong, but I heard that he had used AI in order to like recreate his younger voice as well. So it also could give more longevity to some artists who their voice doesn't sound the same as they age. So it could extend some careers. It can be used for good and evil. It's one of those powerful things. Like it's all what people choose to do with it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, um, this particular NBA finals, saying finals, NBA playoffs has been really interesting because for I've many years I rooted for the Knicks, and me living in Atlanta, I have been um, making an effort to root for the Hawks, and this Knicks team, let me just say, it's very different. Okay, um, the last Knicks team to actually win a championship was even before my time, and I was around for the Bernard King era, and those people who follow the Knicks know that Bernard King was one of the most prolific scorers that the NBA has ever seen, with not the enough help. The Patrick Ewing Knicks team clearly had a possibility and couldn't get over the hump.
Hmm.
But a lot of people are saying that have been following the Knicks for a minute that this particular Knicks team is special. What's your thoughts? I know you've been watching the playoffs. I don't know who your team is, but
Yeah, I don't really have a team personally because I really just started watching once the playoffs came back around. Once the playoffs came around, that's when I started using that app. But prior to that, I hadn't watched any games really for the NBA season. Of course, I hear about Jalen Brunson and Cat, so they have a lethal team for sure. Um, Battling out the West though is really like I think they can pretty get to the finals for sure. Um, who they end up playing is gonna be their issue because I've been watching a lot of the West Coast games. So I was watching the I really like the Nuggets and Timberwolves series. Um, I liked the Spurs. Really, I like watching the Spurs now too with Wemby. He's doing crazy things. So I seen that game the other night where he dropped 40 and 20. Like that's what's scary because I'm like it don't matter how good the Knicks are. It seems like Wemby is now catching his because now it's like okay he's been in the league a couple years now and he's feeling confident. He's gotten stronger. So seeing that I'm like oh yeah things look a little things look a little sketchy. Like this would be the Knicks' last last chance to win. I'm not gonna lie. I think they'd have to come in and get it done early. I think because I feel like they probably fare a better chance against OKC. I actually don't think they do too bad against the Spurs because they have OG and Cat. So I mean they have some bigs that can give Wemby a tough time, but the Spurs have a very good team. Like with those two guards, Castle and Harper, them boys is, and then they got De'Aaron Fox who's injured right now, but they have a team, and then their role players. Since they have so many good like main starters, their role players can really just come in and chip in, and then they got Vassell who's doing crazy things like Spurs as a whole. Oh, and then Cam Johnson, that's his name, sixth man of the year. So they have a really really good squad. Then OKC is, they got Shea, Jalen Williams just got back. Chet. I think that I have to see how OKC makes their adjustments for the Spurs first, and before I can say who I think would make it out of there. But
So a couple of things. One, you do know that OKC has a losing record to the Spurs during this regular season.
yeah, I saw that. Like
But
four and
then, as
one.
far as the Knicks and the Spurs, the Knicks already beat them for the NBA Cup. They got this
Yeah,
NBA
yeah.
Cup thing at
Hmm.
the beginning of the season. So this is, I've been looking at this Wemby guy because we've had extra long players before, Yao Ming, Manupo, but no
Not
one
like
has
this.
been able, no
Hmm.
one's
Not,
been able to do what this guy does. I mean, he
not like
dribbles like
this.
a point guard. He play makes like a point guard. He blocks shots like
Shooting
Wilt Chamberlain.
threes, making free throws. We've never seen
He's a
somebody
freak of
this
nature,
tall.
man.
It is. This is one time where I'm actually like, okay, I'm impressed watching somebody play basketball because he's he's barely jumping and able and he can jump too. That's the problem because it's not even
Right.
like he's big and can barely get off the ground. No, he's got a little bit of hops to him, man. Arms is super long and he has the footwork and court. We've never seen someone this tall, this coordinated. He's not strong yet, but he's getting stronger. It's a scary sight right now. Watching what he's and I see him. It looks like he looks like the first generation of a new type of NBA player that's going to evolve. Like I think it only gets kind of crazier from him because now people who are tall have a model to go off of. So seeing him shoot, learning to shoot like Wemby as a seventh, people getting taller. So you get a couple more people that height into the NBA, and then it's over with. So I see it just taking the NBA in a completely different direction to the point where we could see whole teams full of Wembanyamas. So, or there'd
That
be
would be
two or
crazy.
maybe two on a team. Like if you have two Wembys on a team, that's already crazy. But before we didn't even have that many. Like I would like to see the stats of like number of 7-footers in the league year after year, and if that number has been increased or if it's always kind of been. Because there've been plenty of people who is like it used to be if you were 7 feet you go into the NBA regardless if you could walk up the up the court. They used to have people who could barely run. It's like, oh, you 7 foot, just stand right there, and then they would try to make it work. But now with somebody like Wemby who has those skills and can actually get up and down the court, and it's different. Things looking scary.
I will say that I wonder what it would have looked like for Wemby to go up against Shaq because Shaq first of all, he wouldn't have been able to guard Shaq because Shaq would just he would he would back him down beneath the goal, and then he wouldn't be able to jump because the goal would be right right above him. And then Shaq was also deceptively quick
Yeah.
for somebody his size. So I would be curious to see how he would. I mean, not that Shaq could stop him, but I don't
That's what I'm
think that
thinking.
Wemby would waylay Shaq the way that he's doing these other guys.
Uh, so I don't think Shaq has ever seen anything like Wemby, because it's just like Wemby changes the game because of how, if he's able to be out on the three, you got Shaq out there guarding threes now. So that's moving him out the paint. Because I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think, and that's one thing I do like about Wemby. I don't think he's necessarily concerned about a lot of one-on-ones. He's more a distraction for the other team, which is why the Spurs are so good. I think because if he's keeping the big man, like the big man you have to respect him on the three because he can really shoot. And then now the middle's wide open, and you don't want to leave your big stranded out there, so you might have to double Wemby out there. So it just changed the whole dynamic of the game. So even you try to feed it to Shaq down low, he still got to finish over him, which Shaq wasn't necessarily too accustomed to doing. Everyone he was finishing over was pretty much shorter than him, except for when he was going up against Yao Ming, and Yao Ming gave him some problems back in the day. So I don't know. And Yao was nowhere close to as coordinated as Wemby is, and so Wemby's
Nowhere
getting
near.
those. He's getting the blocks. He's just a little bit better. I wouldn't discredit. He's definitely weaker. That's in the size and strength category is nowhere close. But him having some defensive technique and understanding how to block and just being so long, I think it makes it much more difficult on Shaq. But it's hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's definitely been. I will say, as far as Minnesota's concerned, even though they did succumb to the Spurs, one of their key players, did he break his leg?
DiVincenzo, he
Yeah,
tore his Achilles.
yeah. So they would have fared better if he had been around, and then of course Anthony Edwards himself wasn't 100%. So I think that series would have went a little deeper. Now their center, even though their center was, I understand, was upset that Wemby got Defensive Player of the Year, which is kind of crazy because in the playoffs, what's Minnesota's center again? I forgot his
Gobert,
name.
Rudy
Yeah,
Gobert.
Gobert,
Mm-hmm.
for all of his uh, concern about being disrespected, he didn't really show up, in my opinion, in that game against the Spurs. So that was his time to show and prove.
Yeah, I think he might have been worn out from Jokic. He had a very tough tough playoffs. You go up against Jokic, then Wemby. I don't know who they played the first round, but I gotta, cause he did his thing trying to contain Joker. I'll give him that. Like he definitely made it difficult for Jokic to get into his bag, and which normally helps propel um, the Nuggets in those games. But the Nuggets were missing a lot. It's really to me Murray just doesn't show up when it comes to the playoffs. I don't know what happened. He used to be very clutch. Like I thought he was gonna be one of the better point guards when he first came into the league. But it just seems like he becomes non-existent at certain points in the game where it's like you really need to be the number two, and you're not you're not doing that, or you're not taking over the game enough. And then Aaron Gordon was hurt that series as well. he was a big part of them winning. Um, but yeah,
They
it's
definitely missed Aaron Gordon for sure.
so that I think that also helped Minnesota get by them. But honestly, the bigger piece from Minnesota was Jaden McDaniels kind of really, you know, announcing his presence, because I think he's been there the whole time, but now like other people are now on notice, like, okay, no, he's the legit deal, because people he was they had Alexander Walker, Shea Gilgeous cousin on the team the last run, and so it was kind of like you were like, okay, they got some real good wing guards over in Minnesota. But then you take away Walker Alexander, and then it's just McDaniels, and they still producing at the same clip. So it's like, okay, no, he's legitimate. So I definitely want to see how McDaniels' career transpires moving forward. Um, who else is some people? Oh, actually, I did want to. If you had, if you could make a basketball team with just players based on their IQ, who would be your starting five?
You mean present day players?
Um, no, it could be all time.
That's hard. Um, that's super hard.
I could go. Let me see, because I think so for my point guard, I want to say I personally go Rondo for my point guard. Actually, and I didn't even just mean I do mean IQ and kind of hustle.
Basketball IQ, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
get it.
So I would say someone who would be on my team would be like Marcus Smart. I like how Marcus Smart plays basketball. Um, he understands the game and kind of tries to win outside of just points scored. Like, he tries to affect the game in different ways. Um, Actually, it might be hard. I would probably just pick people whose mindset I would pick, not necessarily each. Um, Probably not each individual position, because I like Alex Caruso too. Alex Caruso plays very smart basketball. Um,
That's part of the reason why they put him on Wemby, which is just
yeah, yeah,
outrageous. He's
he's
5'7" 4".
that's it, and it looks crazy, but yeah, if you know how to play the game, I think Wemby might have gone off a little bit more, but I do think Alex Caruso is a very smart player when it comes to that stuff. Who else would I say is smart?
Now, while you're thinking, the one person that I know that would be on that team is Bill Russell, because
Okay.
Bill Russell, and he had all his fingers covered with rings, in part because he was such a smart all around player. Because
Mm,
most people know him as a defensive player, but he was in college. He was a scorer as well,
mm,
and he was the guy who often went up against Wilt Chamberlain, the guy who scored 100.
yeah,
But Wilt don't have the 10, so Bill Russell would definitely be on that team for sure.
yeah. Actually, I think because as I'm thinking about it, it's more. I think I'm thinking more champion-minded people. So I think Rondo is very. He's like a champion IQ point guard. So then I don't. Did Marcus Smart win a championship with somebody? Was he with Boston when they won? I don't know if Marcus Smart has won it.
He, Marcus Smart was on Boston.
I don't know if he was
Uh,
there for the
I
NBA
can't
Finals
remember.
though.
We'd have to look it up,
Yeah,
but he was there.
but that's why I said Caruso though, because I think Caruso's a big He's a championship minded player. Um, Kind of almost like I think not who got all the rings? Ori.
Robert
Robert
Ory.
Ori, yeah. Yeah, his type of
Robert Horry.
basketball. Like, I think those are really, like, people focus a lot on superstars, but those players are the ones that I look at for. Do you have someone like that on your team if you want to win a championship? That's what I look for a lot of times. So,
Well, a lot of people underestimate um, Dennis Rodman's basketball IQ,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
but he went around from team to team. He knew he had a high basketball IQ.
Yeah, nah, he was really smart. I definitely picked up on that watching a couple of highlights. And LeBron is smart too. I'll definitely hand it to LeBron for knowing the game. I think now, and that's why he's only able to play now because of his IQ. I think I think his body is now, he doesn't have the same steps, but since he's been playing the game for so long, he knows when to score, how to score. So I see him working overtime in mental games as opposed to physical, and that's the reason why he's still able to be a starting player on playoff contending teams. But outside of
And it
that, I
doesn't.
think he's slowing
It
down.
wasn't until, and to your point, it wasn't until they faced OKC that he was totally exposed. Because everybody was like, "Yo, this guy, will he ever need to retire?" Until he played OKC,
Yeah.
and then he got exposed.
That was a tough game because I mean but he definitely is not he can't be the main person. So you were obviously seeing that the Lakers were missing their primary scorer and facilitator, and Austin Reeves was half. I don't know what percentage Austin Reeves was, but he did not do what they needed him to do, and that actually kind of, he might have had the worst fall in stock from this playoffs. Like I think he had and I know he was hurt, but I think seeing him as having to be the main guy, and after a whole season, I think it was like more wear and tear on him as a player, and so I think looking at that going into next season is definitely hurt his stock. Didn't perform very well in the last couple of series, so I just think he lost a lot this off season, which it's hard to put it all on him because you're playing without Luka Doncic, who's one of the greatest players. But when it's your time to put the team on your back and you can't do so, and you got Bron, aging Bron, really the only one kind of holding you guys together, and Marcus Smart, then it's like, really, what if they didn't have Marcus Smart? It would have been so embarrassing how much they got blown out in a lot of those games. It wasn't even funny. So,
But I do have to bring this up, and I think we're getting close to time.
yeah,
This has been a really good conversation. Um, Nico Harris, he lost his job for stepping out there and saying, "I don't think Luka is worth what y'all were willing to, what you guys were willing to pay him."
yeah,
And so far, I mean, maybe in the future Luka will prove him wrong, but so far he's proved Luka right. Now I think what hurt him, what hurt Luke, I don't. It seems
Nico,
like yeah, what hurt Nico, and for some reason it seems like you and I talked about this already. What hurt Nico was that he traded Luka for a guy that was similarly unavailable. Uh, the guy who does the pranks now. What's his name again?
the
The guy
pranks.
that the guy who
You
they
traded for
traded.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah, Anthony Davis. He has a
Oh,
prank show now.
he is prank. Oh, I never seen that. Okay.
Yeah, he has a prank show. But Anthony Davis came to Dallas and didn't produce, and he was the reason why Nico ended up losing the job. Now, because of course, if Anthony Davis had came and produced, then Nico would have looked like the man. So we'll see. When Nico made the deal, I wasn't as good as Luka has the potential to be. The reality is that he's not produced in the playoffs, and here he is sitting on the bench, and he's the franchise player.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, with that, I mean, I actually thought Dallas. I looked at this year as just like kind of a wash year where they were trying their best to just get Cooper is well acclimated to the NBA as possible without Kyrie, without Anthony Davis. But I'm thinking once all their pieces get back, they got a pretty solid squad over there. And
Yeah,
I
but
think,
Anthony Davis is gone. They traded him to Washington.
oh dang, I ain't even know.
Yeah,
Who'd they get
yeah,
for him?
yeah. I forgot.
Oh, okay.
I forgot. Honestly, I
Yeah,
forgot.
I didn't think it. I was like, I didn't believe that they were gonna be able to stay together outside of that year. Okay, actually, I do remember them having the discussion because that was when they were saying, "Oh, you can't trade people when they're injured." Because Anthony. Okay, now I remember that. But yeah, I think Kyrie should be coming back next year, possibly. I think.
I think he was out all this past
This
season.
whole
I ain't
season. Yeah,
seen
that's what I'm
anybody.
saying. So that's why I'm thinking, oh, you coming back with Kyrie at point, AD at the center, and Cooper now. But I mean, obviously now that's not happening. But that's why I was like, Mavericks might be a good team. They just took this year off. There's gonna be a lot of shakeups in the NBA this upcoming off season because everyone
Jason
knows they
Kidd
got to do
got
something.
fired. You do know Jason Kidd. They
Nah,
just
I haven't.
fired him.
I haven't been paying attention to anything with the.
Yeah,
Like I said,
they
I just started watching the NBA playoffs. I wasn't keeping up with anything NBA at all, so I was very out the loop.
yeah. So this was another really good conversation. I'm glad that it kind of ping pong in the directions that it went in,
Mm-hmm.
and you gave me some things to think about as far as Drake and some of his new work.
Yeah,
I think I've got hopefully something for you to get some other people's opinions on as far as Lil Baby and
yeah.
that
That's an
song. Cause
interesting take. I'm gonna have to be asking some people about how they feel
yeah,
about
yeah, I
that.
want to
So
hear what other people are saying
we'll
about that.
see.
Yeah,
That's definitely a hot take for you, though. So I won't. That's credited to you because I never heard anyone say that would be top 100 song. And I think it's just there's so much music that comes out.
I
I'm just
know,
like
I know, I know.
I
I
also think it
do.
would have. I feel like it will be tied to Lil Baby's relevance though in 25
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
So
That's why I said. That's why I said 25 years. Oh, there's one more thing I meant to. You reminded me, and you may not have noticed it because you haven't been watching the playoffs that closely. But one of Atlanta's own, the King of the South, his latest hit is one of the anchor songs for the NBA
Ti.
playoffs. Let him know.
Mm.
I don't know if you noticed that.
I know that song is
So
that song has been kind of everywhere. Like when I'm doing a little part, that's the song that's requested. So yeah, T.I. got himself a hit after all these years. So
yeah,
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 everything is possible for sure. So
yeah, yeah. So we'll come back to Ti the next time because I think
okay,
we're up against time. But we'll
yeah,
come
yeah,
back to that. There was a whole nother piece that I wanted to talk to you about. We brought up Ti's son a couple of episodes ago for doing 100.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But maybe he was just trying to do what his father said in the song. Because he said he does 200 everywhere in the song.
Yeah.
So
Cool. All right. Well, this has been a fun episode. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Please like, comment, subscribe. We did get some comments on last video, so people is tuning in. Talking. So yep. Please continue to drop the comments. I'll try and respond as soon as possible, or like it, whatever. But yeah, we thank you for watching. Any last words, Frank?
no.
All right then. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Good night.